This is Darker Days Radio, and this is episode 53, and we are back with some wonderful guests this time, and we're going to be talking about a certain quick starter about demons. I am one of your regular hosts, Chris, and we unfortunately we don't have Mike with us this week, but of course we do have our newest host with us, Chigg. How you doing, Chigg?
Pretty good, Mike. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm eating weird things and drinking weird things. We'll get to that. More importantly,
good way to spend your weekend.
Christmas Town is almost set up in Germany here, and of course we are joined by two excellent guests. They are the developers and writers behind Demon the Descent, the newest game from Onyx Path Publishing. So of course we are joined by Matt McFarland.
Hello.
And by Rose Bailey.
Hi.
And listeners, of course, are more than aware of their previous work on such things as Vampire the Requiem or Dark Ages, be it Vampire or whatnot, and Geist the Sin Eaters, and general, great books throughout the entire New World of Darkness line and Classic World of Darkness. The list is too big to go through. I was just reminding myself and looking at it and just going like, yeah, that book was great, that book was great, that book was great, that book I've still yet to finish reading or use in my own games. So yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. It's normally at this point we banter about what stuff we've been gaming about, gaming with. What have I been up to? Looking in horror at some certain toy soldiers I need to put together because they require a metric ton of green stuff, and running some more Iron Kingdoms right now, and of course reading a certain new game. Chigg, you've been doing some gaming?
Sadly, not so much. My regular group has had issues come up that have prevented us from getting together. So
that sucks.
Been reading the Void Engineers book and trying to hunt down all the typos and such in there.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I still need to have a look at that, but I've been wildly distracted by a different World of Darkness book.
Understandable.
Yeah. So, Matt and Rose, gaming as always, I guess? Playtesting things or running your regular games?
Running Changeling recently. Lot of Changeling.
Okay.
I've got an ongoing historical game set in 1971.
Oh, wow.
And it's, I sort of call it my activist Changeling game. It's set in the anti-war movement and at the dawn of the gay rights movement. A lot of it's more mortal stuff than it is Changeling stuff, but we also get a lot of weird hedge stuff in there, and last week we had a little bit of God Machine Chronicles crossover.
Oh, excellent. So, excellent. I was going to say, make sure that it was Changeling Lost. Yeah, I'm really, massive fan of Changeling Lost. And Matt's gaming-wise?
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. I'm running a Promethean the Created game. I'm running... What else am I running? I'm running Night's Black Agents. We just made characters for a Better Angels game, and then it seems to me that I'm running one more monthly game. Oh, I'm running Monster Hearts.
Oh, okay.
So I have one bi-weekly game that I run, and then the other three are monthly. So we're doing a lot of gaming. And actually, I'm running a one-shot of a game called Hollow Point tonight. So it doesn't seem like I'm running a lot of World of Darkness right now, but I ran the Demon the Descent SAS, over about 5 sessions because I was writing it, and it's. I find that writing adventures is easier if I run them first and then go back and write down what I did.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Monster Hearts. I've just started running a game called Impossible Worlds, which is a sort of an apocalypse world variation in the style of Doctor Who.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Yeah, my players really took to Monster Hearts like fish to water, though. That's very much their kind of thing.
I feel very cheated that the Monster Hearts game that was supposed to round out our last few months in Atlanta before we moved really didn't materialize. It was a shame. We had we had some great character concepts.
Let's see then. This is the point where we normally do World of Darkness, White Wolf, Onyx Path news. So I think we should head over to that. Onyx Path news. What should we say?
Well, there is this Kickstarter.
There is a Kickstarter.
Yeah, the Kickstarter is a pretty big deal to us.
Yeah, so let's just cut to the chase. So, Demon of Descent, latest New World of Darkness game. It has a Kickstarter. It's been running for the best part of 5 days.
Not even. It's only started on Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it is at 200% of its goal. So
84,186. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, that's one. And it hit its original target in the space of about 4 hours.
3.5.
3.5.
Wow.
So not as good as Exalted, but what are you going to do?
Not as good.
I spun it as 4 hours to a little bit to catch the 4s that repeat in Demon, but
Right.
it was actually almost exactly 3.5 hours.
Excellent. And yeah, you've also, of course, there are plenty of stretch goals being unlocked as we go. So of course, there's a bookmark, there's a Seattle setting PDF. There are these seeds, which are essentially story hook seeds in the style of the God Machine Chronicles book, which will cover different city settings as well. So they'll be based either, I guess, in Seattle or other locations. And then upcoming, we have ready-made characters, more seeds, and the list is, there'll be more revealed as we go. So,
Oh, hey Rose, did you happen to hear back from Rich about the stretch goal that we pitched on Friday?
No, haven't heard back anything from him on that.
Oh, that's such a shame. Oh well.
I would like to be able to talk about it here, but
Yeah, but we don't
I
have approval yet.
can't do it yet.
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's great. The interesting things, something that was interesting for me was the description of the style of the book, as in how the cover will be printed, because it's going to be more. It fits in more with the other books with the metallic-y finish underneath. Is that right?
That's correct, although it is going to have an embossed logo the way that Mummy did.
Yeah, that was what I was
So it's
gonna
going to
say.
have both.
I was always wondering with Mummy, because of the colour scheme, it just whether it would have even fitted having that metallic finish, or else it would have been the type
Yeah.
of book that blinded you or something.
We talked about metallic finish for Mummy. I wasn't involved in too many of those conversations, but I was involved in a few. We talked about metallic finish for Mummy, and it just didn't work with the color scheme of the book.
That was basically my only guess about why it wasn't that. So yeah, that's good to know. Cool. We have certain things are shipping or are about to ship. So of course, Werewolf 20. And I believe the Changing Breeds 20th anniversary book is out, and people are enjoying that.
The PDF is out.
PDF, yeah.
Hunter's Hunted 2 is about to ship, though.
Yes. There's a whole slew of these books from Kickstarters that are turning up, and I think that's a real good thing, because I mean, again, there's been talk in place, and I noticed, Matt, you were basically damped down some fires on Google Plus about that another Kickstarter has begun before another one's finished, and it's not really quite true, because some have finished and the initial product's out, and more parts of that product, the add-ons are coming.
Well, the thing of it is too, I mean, the question is a fair one, and the question is, should a company be running, these big Kickstarters while previous Kickstarters have not been completely fulfilled? And if you were talking about a game company that is, in the style of like mine with, Growling Door Games, then that would certainly kind of be suspect. But, Onyx Path, officially there is one Onyx Path employee, that's Rich Thomas, but there are a lot of people working on these books. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's actually not at all accurate to say that there are resources being taken away from, say, Exalted that are going towards Demon that are going to delay Exalted. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, there's no personnel connection between Demon and Exalted at all.
Really? None?
Unless you count that I handle Onyx Path's developer logistics. No, there's no personnel connection.
Oh, there you have it.
Exactly. And yeah, if you were limiting yourselves by any of that, then as you mentioned, the rate of books actually going out would slow down monumentally. So, and the other important thing is that these books, like the Prestige Edition or the Deluxe Edition, whatever, with many of these books, are 90% complete by the time they come to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is really just funding a traditional print run, and that's a very different beast to actually getting the other bits together for the book to come out as a PDF, because it would come out no matter what as a PDF. So again, that fits into the whole thing of like that many of these Kickstarters are not a pre-order system. They're a chance to get hold of something that you that you don't get these days unless it's a traditional print run. So yeah, I mean, it's good to have that answered. And other news, I don't see much more else on the list there. Yeah, there's definitely various other books in progress, but this is all really secondary to what we want to talk about right now. So I think we'll just shift over to the New World of Darkness segment, and we will talk about that, because I'm not even going to bother going through our mailbag because it's all related.
World of Darkness 2.0.
So, Demon the Descent. There's so much in there, and that I've read so far, and it offers something which I think is quite. Yeah, it's really hard to put my finger on it right now. So I think the first thing to start with is let's have the initial what the pitch is. So people that are maybe on the fence about wanting to kickstart it, or are not yet sold with it, and say are more into whichever other World of Darkness game or other RPG. So either Matt or Rose, give the pitch for Demon the Descent. And
you are an angel who has defected to the human race. That's Matt's words, not mine, but I think they're beautiful.
I wish I had come up with that like when we were in the outline stage, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think that it would have been. I think that it's a really nice phrase to kind of encapsulate the game. I just thought of that when I was writing the copy for the Kickstarter video, and like, oh well, at least I figured it out that late, or that. But
well, it's probably gone on the back of the book. So
woo! I can be clever, even if it takes me a few months.
So, I think one of the important things then to initially point out with Demon the Descent is how or what these demons are and how they relate to the God Machine. Because it's, in many respects, it's quite it has at its core the whole, you were angels and you have fallen, you've become these demons. And that can initially, and I've actually had to correct someone on another website when they put up the Kickstarter, can come off, or someone could actually easily portray that as being very much the same as Demon the Fallen. It's a precursor for classic World of Darkness. But the themes within Demon the Descent and the very nature of the angels and the very nature of the demons makes it a very different beast to that previous game that had a very similar title. So I think it's worth really digging into really what these angels and what these demons are, and what really makes them unique within the World of Darkness and to other similar beings that have been previously written about.
So the God Machine is a literal machine that winds its way all throughout creation. It has an agenda. What that agenda is probably beyond human comprehension in a sort of mechanized Cthulhu sort of a way. Mm-hmm. It understands people as a species. That is, it knows that there are people on Earth. It knows that they're capable of manipulating their environment. It doesn't understand a person. So to deal with people on sort of a micro level, it creates angels. It also creates angels to do things like, raise buildings, destroy planets, whatever it really needs done, move souls around from one place to another, build things. And occasionally one of these angels decides, screw this, for whatever reason. And there are a lot of different reasons to fall. The game that I ran when I ran the SAS, one of the angels, or one of the demons, was a guardian. One of the demons was a destroyer. The destroyer had been, as an angel, assigned to kill this one particular. She was a barista at a coffee shop, actually. And so this guy was a destroyer angel, and his mission was to kill her. The guardian was assigned to protect her. And when those two angels realized that their missions were mutually exclusive, they both fell. Now, what they did with that information later was very different, because the destroyer kind of wanted to stay a demon and never wanted to go back, and the guardian was like, no, I want to go back into the God machine, but fix this glitch first so this doesn't happen again. So one of the big differences then between Demon the Descent and Demon the Fallen is that Demon the Fallen assumed a kind of Judeo-Christian model where, God was the Abrahamic God, and Demon the Descent assumes this technognostic model where the God is the God machine, which is, kind of a very different setup. But the other thing is, too, that, demons in Demon the Fallen, all else being equal, might have liked to go back to being angels because they were cast out of paradise, if you will. The demons in Demon the Descent are actively hiding from their previous existence as angels, and their God would love to have them back. It just wants to take them apart and, use their parts.
Another thing about Fallen versus Descent is that in Fallen, angels and God are things that are very absent from the modern world. It follows sort of the tradition of the classic world of darkness as not all of the lines, but many of the lines presenting the world as a spiritually bankrupt place. That's not at all the case in the Descent. In the Descent, God is an active force in the world. Now, that God may be the Gnostic demiurge rather than the traditional loving God of Christianity, but God is still there, palpably there, physically there. You can go see God's gears. Whereas, and angels are active forces in the world. They protect some people. They destroy other people. They stop natural disasters. They ensure plagues. They do all of these things that are very active in the world. There's this whole idea of an active opposition that didn't exist at all in Fallen. And yet there are still many of the same questions of motivation that were so prevalent in Fallen. In Fallen, there were questions of just how sneaky a bastard is God? Did God plan this? And those same questions are present in Descent. A lot of the greater mysteries of what God is, what God intends, and what the purpose of loyalty to that God was or is are still present in the Descent.
And it's the one thing that's good is you've brought up there is the idea that the God machine is kind of this Gnostic demiurge, because this was one of the things that Mike and I had in our initial conversations when we looked at the some of the pre-release stuff for Demon the Descent and the Quick Starters, how that really starts asking. Opens up the world in some respects and opens up the cosmology in interesting ways, because yes, this is a god with its angels and its demons, but then it's not the final answer. There are many things beyond it as well, which I think in Demon the Fallen, because it presented, there is this god and there are the demons, and they are the gods and demons and angels of Abrahamic religion. It kind of was a kind of final in what it was presenting. Whereas I think, yeah, the God Machine is this huge thing that's very difficult to kind of comprehend, and that's great because it just blows the entire setting open. And
well, it does depend on whose perspective you're asking.
Yeah.
You know, the average demon is much more inclined to identify their god with perhaps misunderstandings of the gods of real religions.
Mm-hmm.
Demons see the God Machine everywhere, and they should, because it's looking for them. But as a whole, it doesn't make a statement about who created the world of darkness. Did the God Machine create the world of darkness? Possibly. Certainly the God Machine benefits from the world of darkness being the way the world of darkness is. But then again, there may be some force beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
There's room, in fact, I mean, this came up in the Demon the Descent game that I ran. There's room for demons to believe in a different higher power than the God Machine.
Oh, that's wicked. That's really cool.
Well, sure, if you can go see God's gears and you can, posit that someone had to put those gears in place.
Kind of a cosmic watchmaker theory writ large, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the inspiration, and I think it's actually kind of name checked the Cosmic Watchmaker issue in my original pitch for the game.
When you say the demons can go see the God Machine's gears, the way the gears is a very kind of like can mean really anything in that way. They're not literal gears all the time. You can see the how the God Machine is manipulating the world in a very machine-like manner to move resources around and people, and the way those infrastructures that it creates to do that manifests have a machine-like feel to them. But they're not necessarily always a machine. Is that right?
Well, that's true. Processes of the God Machine, infrastructure, can take a lot of forms.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, you are looking at literal machinery that's part of the God Machine. But in other cases, your bank could be part of the God Machine.
My bank.
Your suburban subdivision could be part of the God Machine.
Yeah.
The occult matrices that relate to infrastructure are not tied specifically always to mechanical components, although they do tend to trend that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the example of the bank, you might find that in the furnace room of the bank's headquarters, there's a boiler with a beating heart inside it. You know? Actually, that's something to plug another book. The Hunter antagonist book that's coming up is going to deal somewhat with infrastructure in the form of what it calls institutional demons.
Oh, excellent.
And so the kinds of things that can be infrastructure that aren't that are sometimes but are not always literal machines.
It reminds me of some of the which one was it? Again, another short story that I can't remember the title of it. But it's in the God Machine Chronicles anthology, and it's the case of the I think it's the election of a new mayor, and there is a
that's Chicago working system.
Yes, I really like that.
That's David Hill's story.
Yes, I was going to think. I was like, I'm sure he wrote that one because we were talking about it when he was last on the show. And there's again some sort of like organ with various metallic rods through it that's being used for a ritual. And of course, there are numerous strange events going on in order to move people around so that the God Machine can have its way with the world. So one of the other interesting things within Demon the Descent is how you really do address how these demons are very different to other things that are can be called demons within the setting as well.
Well, you can call just about any World of Darkness monster a demon.
True.
Hunters apply the label frequently to vampires.
Yes.
Even though we don't do it out of character.
But I think one of the nice things is just how it's actually really how I think Demon does slot into the grander setting as well. And so there's obviously a lot here to use, either both in a self-contained game and how you want to drop it in or drop other elements in. And I always like that in any of the books, and especially if you can find something from this that you can even port back into classic World of Darkness. So there's loads of great stuff in there. So the thing that we can mention is that demons fall into sort of 4 kind of classes, and they relate to their roles as when they were angels, and either then the demon can still pursue these kind of roles, these incarnations, or they can even act against them. So we have these the concept of the destroyer, concept of the guardian, a messenger, or a psychopomp. And then on top of that, we have demons. Demons have agendas. So we have the Inquisitor, the Integrator, the Saboteur, and the Tempter. So, is there any particular reason, genesis for the set of Demon? Like, how did this version of Demon kind of grow and evolve? Was it originally kind of conceived separate from the ideas of the God Machine as presented in the World of Darkness core book, or was it kind of that gave you this avenue to really explore a type of demon and maybe a type of horror that we haven't seen in the World of Darkness before?
Well, it was absolutely not conceived separately from the God Machine. So what happened was I was helping Rich put together one of our sets of pitch proposals to CCP for 2012-2013. And we wanted to have some common themes running through them, and we wanted to be building on mythology elements that were unique to the World of Darkness, to the new World of Darkness, so that we didn't have one of the things working with CCP and their interest being in building up the collection of ideas that they might have to mine at a later date. Their interest is in seeing us do new stuff.
Yeah.
And do stuff with the 2 Worlds of Darkness that are distinct. So, with that general mission, I said, well, one of the beautiful, unique things about the World of Darkness is that God Machine fiction from the core rulebook. And so I pitched a set of 2 books based on that mythology. And book number 1 was the God Machine Chronicle, which would double as our chance to revise the rules. And book number 2 was Demon the Descent, which would deal with, well, if it's God, what are its angels?
Cool.
So it was very rooted in the mythology of the New World of Darkness right from the start. That was the entire motive, in fact.
Yeah, I mean the initial God Machine fiction back from the core book is just like, it's absolutely awesome and left so many unanswered questions for people, and basically people started running games, running chronicles based on that initial fiction, and to come back to that pretty much like 10 years later, or around about 10 years later or so, to take that and to build an entire further expanded mythology from it and Demon from that is excellent. I think one of the things that stands out is, and this ties back into a Dark Days episode we did a while back, was something which I often feel gets missed is kind of what I call the science of evil, and that's the title of what we gave it, but it's the idea
Isn't that a Doctor Who serial?
Is it? Oh shit!
I'm not sure. It just sounds like one.
But it's the idea that that while we have all this strange kind of you have all the paranormal and mystical kind of elements in the World of Darkness, is that often science can be pushed to its very bleeding edges. And weirdness
called Bleeding Edge.
Yeah,
in fact.
exactly. And that weirdness can be found there, where you haven't sacrificed a goat to some demon. You haven't been enacting some ritual with Atlantean sigils. You've got to the very edges of actual the physical laws and of reality, and yet weird stuff then is found or created because of what you do. So be it biological testing or something to do with something happening at CERN, various elementary particles running rampant and causing chaos. And one of the things I like about in Demon Descent is the fact that the demons have this biomechanical kind of form. And again, I think that puts them as being very different entities as well. The angels as well makes them very different entities to what could be considered similar beings, be they the demons of the Inferno, or they're the abyssal entities from Mage, or the Quashilim from Promethean. So, how did your view of what demons would be, their powers and abilities, kind of evolve then from this idea of the God Machine?
Well, to start with, the whole notion that we would have these kinds of traditional angelic and demonic silhouettes, but with biomechanical details, that was part of the initial pitch. It was part of tying it back to the God Machine. I had the notion that I wanted the powers to operate in two categories, both of which involved manipulating reality more on a conceptual level, on moving, not to overuse the word, the gears underneath reality, than some of the more, shall we say, blunt force kinds of things that you can do in Mage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, so that was my take on it, and then Matt just took it and ran with it and wrote 120 fantastic powers based on that very loose framework I provided. Matt is really the mastermind of the powers.
Writing embeds and exploits, one really just built on the other, because I knew that I didn't want like dot by dot lists the way that Vampire does disciplines, because I want the powers for demons to be a little bit more modular. And so the other thing is too that it's easier for me writing powers if I don't have to worry about power levels, if all of them are on the same level more or less. So I looked at embeds as these are really just metaphysical equations that angels use kind of instinctively, or rather use as they're programmed to use them. Demons can use them by remembering that they're there. And then exploits are what happens when you overclock an embed. Basically, instead of using it the way that it's normally used, you take that equation and you divide by 0 or whatever, and it makes something big and loud and showy and fun, and it can attract attention, but it will probably also have a much more pronounced effect. When I was outlined the Demon Player's Guide, and there's going to be some new exploits and embeds in there, and I said, the proper way to look at an exploit is an exploit is the power that your demon uses after they say the phrase "fuck it."
Okay. Yeah, I mean, embeds and exploits, and the very concept of how demons approach reality compared to mages. I mean, and you make a call back to it in the inspirational sources, and of course, if you want something to easily kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, is actually the Matrix trilogy. Mages are the hackers. They don't use what's built in. They literally change things wholesale and change the whole sections of the code and write entire new sections, whereas the the demons are more like the agents, or say like other programs in the Matrix which use what's already there, or use the back doors. I imagine like the back doors are kind of like exploits, or maybe not even exploits, would be doing something really, really bad. I mean, the the computational chemist in me just likes the entire concept of that, because I get exactly that that kind of idea of using code in standard traditional way, and then finding bits of code that no one else really knows about, and you use that one, or you do something which is not standard Fortran, and if anyone does that, they really shouldn't, because it won't compile properly all the time on different machines, and that causes some real fucking craziness. So, yeah, it's great. I totally get it. Totally, it's awesome. So, okay, favorite powers, favorite embeds and exploits that you've seen then that have been written, the ones that really you just think that shows this game for what it can be.
Well, the first one Matt showed me was Hush, which allows you to take someone down without making a sound at all.
Was inspired by the very beginning of Casino Royale, where Daniel Craig is getting in the fight in the bathroom. Now, that is not a silent fight, but I was thinking to myself, I really like the way that fight's choreographed. It's really brutal, and I enjoyed the idea of a demon, having that fight while outside, the guy that he's beating up, his backup's right out there, like, oh, he can call us anytime. Hush. So.
That was the first power Matt sent me, and it really nailed to me what demon powers could be, and the kinds of actions they enabled.
As well as the embeds and exploits, demons also have some more innate abilities that derive from their original kind of angelic, demonic forms, which obviously we don't normally see because they appear like humans. And these all tie into that very biomechanical kind of look and theme of the creatures. So there's a whole host of things, like I've seen, like, metallic jaws that can just bite through anything, or electrical kind of discharges and so forth. So any kind of bits you kind of like in there, because you just think that looks like a badass demon if you have that, or selection of demonic form things.
Well, you just, like, in the process of describing it, named all of my favorites.
Oh, right. So the big mechanical maw that just eats everyone.
No, I love the big jaws. I love the big jaws. I love the ability to customize your demonic form. It was one of the things. I suppose as a role player it's no surprise. I like customization, and I like that my character has a big monster form that I get to adjust how I want to. That gives me special abilities, and that I get to and that I get to define for myself. It's a little more freeform than picking an exploit embed set. There's still a set of defined lists to pick from, but you're sort of building your own horror, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thread right now on the Onyx Path forums where people are describing their demonic forms, and it's really cool.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's really good.
Because Danielle Lausen actually wrote that section, and then I went through and developed it, and okay, this will look really cool if this this power leads to this kind of modification. But we tried to make it clear in the draft that our suggestions for what a particular power does to a demonic form's appearance are just suggestions, and people have really taken that and run with it. And come up with some combinations and some images that I think are really evocative, and that I never would have thought of. I know that one of them, I don't know what power it was that he had in mind, but the I shouldn't say he, actually I have no data on that, but this person talked about the demonic form as having butterfly wings with this kind of black circuitry.
Oh, right, yeah.
and the thing on the back. I'm like, that's really cool looking. I like that idea.
Yeah, I've used something similar for a type of spirit in my Manchester setting for mage. So they're called the Gentlemen, and they're bat spirits with their ears look like top hats from far enough away, and they've got big cloaks, but you can see circuit boards because they're bats that are somehow tied into the computer history of Manchester, because obviously you've got why have I become the greatest computer programmer of all? Turing, obviously. So yeah. The whole circuit boards in Wings really, is a really cool thing for demons. Butterfly wings. Cool. Okay. So these demons, they fall, obviously, because they choose to, or they are pushed to make the choice to cut themselves off from the God Machine. And they have to. They take a cover, which is essentially a constructed life, which originally was a constructed life which served a purpose, so they could operate as an angel within the world. And now, obviously, I guess on falling, it kind of that cover more or less manifests more fully within the world. And so what are these covers like then? And then, well, not really how they're like, but I guess how would you? The main thing about demons, you're hiding from the God Machine. So what is the path that a demon takes from getting their first cover and then getting more? And do they get a choice in how many they can have, and so forth?
How many covers a demon can have is based on the demon's primum rating, and the primum is the power stat of demons, kind of analogous to blood potency and vampire and so forth. So if you have primum 1, you can only have the one cover. And I think it goes up 1 for 1 after that, but I don't have the chart in front of me.
Sure.
So it is possible to start out to make a starting character that has multiple covers. You just have to, spend the merit dots to buy up your primum, and then spend a merit dot to buy another cover. But in play, there are a couple of different ways that you can acquire new covers. One is called a soul pact. So you basically make a pact with a person that says, I will give you this, whatever it is that you're giving them: money, riches, fame, wealth, good looks, chocolate. And then when I want it, I come and take your soul. And in context, what that means is the demon touches the person, and that person is completely annihilated.
Mm-hmm.
And the demon steps into their place in reality and takes their identity as a cover.
That's awesome.
Now, of course, there are also partial versions of that. Demons can shave off portions of people's lives,
mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I find very compelling is that a demon can actually make you a trade for a part of your life you don't really want, but to the demon it's like gold.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't really want to be so-and-so's boyfriend anymore. So the demon can take that part.
Wow.
And in fact, it is possible then for a demon to cobble together a cover using multiple small pieces of multiple different lives. This is called a patch job. And it leads to if you can get it going and raise your cover rating up, it actually leads to a more stable cover, because it's harder for an investigator to poke holes in it. But it just takes longer. It's more of a time investment. And then the third way to gain a new cover is something called angel jacking.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires that you know when and where an angel is going to manifest. But if you can basically plug yourself into the God Machine's infrastructure and absorb the angel as it's coming in. And that way you get whatever cover the God Machine was going to design for the angel. Now, the bad news is that the God Machine still assumes the angel is down there, and if you don't do the angel's job, the God Machine can track you.
Nasty. Wow.
But,
unless you find some kind of plot hook that lets you out of it, like, say, a facility that can disconnect you from the God Machine yet again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which I think is actually one of the possibilities we telegraph in the book.
Yep, there's a few different ways to get out of that particular trap.
Oh, I'm sure you can find a friendly little changeling that has enough ability to cut the threads of fate and put a few zeros and ones in between on that connection for you.
That'd be interesting.
Cool.
Or a mage with enough fate magic to try it. Yeah. Maybe.
That bring the whole thing of covers. I mean, that's really cool with the idea of patchwork people as well, because it brings in so many different ways that you can pull these things together. And I'm now just thinking like, wow, a demon operating with a sin eater to kind of somehow grab parts of people's lives pulled out of the underworld or something like that. You know, kind of lives that have been already used, but you know, you've brought them back from the recycle bin. And yeah, that's really, really wicked. Okay, Chigg, do you have any particular questions on Demon Descent? And then we can move on to listener questions.
I do have a question about the about cover. If you take someone over, if they say, "Here, you can have my body when I'm done with it," what happens to them when you kick them out? Is that covered?
What, their body?
Do you care? No, to their them.
Oh. If you soul pack someone, and then you come and claim them, they are gone. There is no more them. Their body is annihilated. Their soul is gone entirely. You can switch between your current cover and them as a cover. It alters the memories of the people around them. Well, actually, it doesn't need to for that kind of soul job, does it? No, I'm sorry. What I was going to say was it doesn't give you that person's memories. So you sort of need to be careful that you're not taking a person that you can't effectively impersonate. But then again, demons have perfect poker faces. So you literally can't catch a demon in a lie, where rather you can if they say something that's demonstrably untrue, but you'll never know that they're lying. As far as you know, they're telling the truth.
Demons always seem to be telling the truth. The only way to find out that the demon is lying is either to know that what they're saying is wrong, or to have the kind of suspicion that you might have that they have a reason to lie to you. Right. It doesn't affect your own judgment, but they give no outward sign.
Right.
Even to magic powers.
Shit.
Wow. That's a nice little power they have.
Well, that's one of my favorite innate demon powers. The other one is that demons speak every language. Anything that can conceivably be a native language, demons speak fluently. So one way to know if you're talking to a demon, if you are another demon, is to talk to them in a language that is likely completely unknown to your surroundings. So if you're in Ohio, you walk up to someone and you start speaking like Basque or something. If they can answer you, there's a good chance.
Oh, just
now watch, I'll find out that there's a thriving Basque community in like Lima or something.
Wow.
Not that I'm aware. So cool. So yeah, cover is actually, I think, one of my favorite parts of the game.
Mine too.
And it's one of the things that I really like about it is that the whole concept of cover is in itself kind of a patch job, because it wasn't in the original pitch. It's something that the group of us, the writers, kind of came up with as we were going, and kind of added these things in. Oh, can you bargain for people's souls and get other covers? Well, what if I think it was Travis Stout that came up with the idea of angel jacking. I'm like, yes, put that in.
That was actually Dave Brookshaw came up with angel jacking.
Oh, was it? Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, Travis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but Travis came up with a lot of the cool things. So cover, there was originally this idea in my original Bible. There was originally this idea that you had a cover that came from when you fell from the God Machine. And then the writers just sort of really ran with that and came up with all these ways to come up with new covers, which are just fantastic. With all these ways to build cover and to pierce cover, and really made it an integral part of gameplay in a way that I really love.
I think it's a really cool thing, because obviously it adds another dynamic element to the game, because it allows you to role play other characters while still playing the same character, sort of. And I think that's really wicked. Because then you can really build up all these different covers and they become fully fledged characters in themselves, yet are joined together by this machine that's operating behind the mask. That's really wicked.
I like it.
So we'll quickly cover a few of our listener questions we had on Reddit. Jerry19 asked that what keeps an integrator from sabotaging or turning traitor to every fellow demon they meet? Or for that matter, why would any demon risk associating with someone that longs to return to that which is perceived as the enemy? Obviously, he goes on that in the game there is elements of espionage and double agents and so forth. But yeah, I think it's a valid question. Like, how I guess then how does that work within Demon, and then how does that balance with like making a playable group of characters?
Well, one thing is that nothing stops an integrator from betraying the group, and I've had that happen generally in one-shots. But the larger answer to the question is, for one thing, an integrator isn't necessarily interested in going back to the God Machine, no questions asked, because if that were the case, they'd just do it. It's not hard. You just kind of like go to a rooftop and use an exploit and wait for the angels. They'll be along presently. An integrator is a demon that wants to go back, and then what follows. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and what follows the but is, like the Guardian that I mentioned earlier, his thing was, I want to go back, but I don't want any more of these glitches that, cause angels to work at cross purposes. I played an integrator who wanted to go back, but he wanted to keep his autonomy because he enjoyed giving sermons, actually.
They want super user privileges on the server.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And not every integrator thinks that other demons should go back. You know what I mean? Like this isn't. It's not necessarily a proselytizing kind of a thing. Like, we should all go home. This isn't working for me. You guys, have fun trying to find hell. So there's that. And integrators have some useful insights into angels that make them handy to have around. But on a kind of more metagame level, the way that you know that your group can work with the integrator is that when you're making characters, one player says, I want to make an integrator, and the other players say, okay, why are we working with your character? And then you hash that out as you're making characters.
Yeah. As always, have the group work out their template or and why they're working together. I mean, it's critical because then you can put in, like, my character may well screw you guys over at some point, but we'll do it in a fun manner that's an engaging storytelling experience rather than, haha, taking a loot, fuck you.
I always encourage, by the way, this really isn't anywhere official in the World of Darkness rules, I always encourage creating characters as a group. Spend a session doing that.
Yes, absolutely.
And actually it is a little bit in Blood and Smoke. There is a system for going around the table as a group creating character interconnections.
Okay. I put that into the Mage the Awakening demo, actually. There's a whole section on making the Cabal and actually making it, establishing this history between these characters, because obviously you haven't played through it, but in order for the story to work the way it's supposed to, it needs to be there.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend to anybody who's listening, make characters as a group. It's much more fun.
Okay.
The other thing is, too, I mean, and this has come up on the Onyx Path forums just recently, not in the context of integrators, but if we were talking about some of the embeds, and somebody was saying, well, what stops me from, doing this and doing this, and I mean, basically, like, making the storyteller's life hell and just, hitting the prince of the city, and using knockout punch. And I said, well, what you're describing is a player who's trying to troll the storyteller. And in my opinion, if the player is trying to do that, that is not a failure of the game mechanics.
Yeah.
So, and like, I don't think that it's unfair for us as game designers to assume that the players are going to be playing the game in good faith, as it were.
Yeah.
So and that's, it seems like a way to dodge the question, but really it's the answer to the question. The group works with an integrator in it because the group has decided that it works with an integrator in it, and people have designed their concepts in a way that is, if not harmonious, then at least functional.
Cool.
And of course, the other thing, by the way, is that I would argue you can't use Knockout Punch on the Prince of the City because vampires don't have unconsciousness in the same way humans do.
I actually did bring that up a couple of posts later. I'm like, I'm not even sure if that embed would work on a vampire now that I think about it, but
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Stupid Loser Man on the Onyx Path forums asked, could you share any sample thoughts you had on the cipher, such as for characters in playtest games? It seems it could benefit from a few example cases, which the book is otherwise very good about. So I have to admit, I haven't read fully up on what the cipher is, so maybe this seems to be an important thing. Briefly, what the cipher is and how it works in the game.
Sure. The cipher is a series of 4 embeds that learned sequentially and then plugged into the cipher as reveal something called the final secret. And the final secret is, I think I describe it in the book as a technostic cone. That's K-O-A-N, not C-O-N-E. That helps a demon on his own descent.
Okay.
So, and the end of it, like somebody described it as sort of a fortune cookie, and I suppose that's one way to look at it. That the final secret is just not a specific instruction, but just kind of a way to approach the descent that should help the character along their way. Now, by the time that you've figured out all 4 of the embeds that go into your cipher and plugged them all in, the intent is that the game's been going for a while, and some progress along that line has already been made. So hopefully the storyteller, has a way to incorporate that. But as far as the way that it looks for the player, everybody starts out with 1 embed already in the cipher. You pick one of your starting embeds to be your first. It's called a key. And then during the game, if your character gets a beat during a scene that involves angels or other god machine-y sorts of things, you can make a roll. If you succeed on the roll, you learn a fact about the next embed that goes into your cipher.
Okay.
So you learn the category, you learn what attribute it keys off of, and then eventually you'll just learn specifically which one it is if you want to be patient. If you don't want to be patient, you can just pick any embed you want, plug it into the cipher, and hope that it works.
Ah, right, okay. The way it's kind of it's sounding to me then is it's almost like again, to go back to some computer programming speak, it's like having different functions which are passing in and out data, and then once you've got the right sequence of these, it allows you to pass the data, which be it reality as you see it, and reveals more about it and how you interact with it.
That's true, but computers don't explode if you put the wrong data in.
Ah, that's a problem. Excellent. Oh, cool.
Not unless you're Captain Kirk.
Well, but who is really?
Brilliant.
Rich Thomas sometimes likes to refer to himself as Admiral Kirk.
Great. Let's push on with some more of these questions. I think some of these we've already covered, as they were some at the start. So obviously we should thank Peter Mars for his questions on the Google Plus community, and because he works in the background for us on certain sideshows for Darker Days. We have Eric Crabtree asks, what do you think was the hardest part about developing Demon of Descent?
Getting it on time.
And I think really what I want to push on to wrap up is, what do you feel, what then it is, what a typical Demon of Descent game will focus on in terms of plot and themes, and what you feel the default is to running this game, what it should feel to the players, what type of stories should come up in the Chronicle, and how that compares to, say, Vampire, Mage, or Geist, because obviously they have their own type of stories that they, if you look at them, they as a default they can tell.
Well, Demon's very much about learning the truth of the world while also learning who you can trust.
Okay.
That's, I think, the shortest I could put it.
And the one thing I'm going to finish off with, because it's one thing which I was quite happy to see pop up in the list of angelic beings and demonic beings. You do actually make a good paragraph about the Quashulim in the setting. So, is there? Are we going to get some future insight into how the Quashulim fit in with the angels and demons and the God Machine? Because they seem to be something else, and I think because of what Promethean's about and what Demon's about, they seem to come from. They fit in very much with the kind of the Gnostic themes of the Demiurge and the Abraxas. So, is that something we're going to see a bit more of in any future Demon books?
Well, they're very like angels, but they operate by different principles.
Yes,
I think that it's likely that you will probably at least see some exploration of the topic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm inclined, and we're just talking here. This is not anything that's been planned, but I'm inclined to do with it very much what we did in Equinox Road when we started talking about Mage Arcadia versus Changeling Arcadia.
Yeah,
and that is to say, here is one way to look at it, here is another way to look at it, here is yet a third way to look at it. Which one is true in your chronicles? That's really up to you, because it isn't important enough in setting to nail it down, and I think that we lose more than we gain by providing a definitive answer. Now, with that said, I have some very specific ideas about what the principle is versus what the God Machine is, and how they tie together. But you can probably just watch my Promethean the Create actual play and see that come out.
That's what I've been thinking, because I've been wondering what with the God Machine being this huge, cosmic machine that's basically doing numerous computations and taking input and output from the world of darkness. How the hell the God Machine puts up with the principle creating other entities in the world in a chaotic manner, which are the Prometheans. That's just got to piss you off when one of these created beings comes along and causes havoc to your infrastructure, or creates an infrastructure, or does something. Because obviously, to me, that represents within Demon. They are an excellent chaos factor. Yeah.
It's entirely possible that not all of the angels that Prometheans talk to are Kashmalim.
Yes, that's
because how would they know the difference?
Exactly, and I don't even want to begin to think how the Exarchs fit into all this, but I'm sure Dave Brookshaw has some interesting.
Dave actually has a very solid non-canon explanation for that.
Oh, I'm going to have to get him back on the show for that one. That sounds very, very interesting. Yeah, I have an idea I have a few ideas on that as well. But it would be nice to hear what he has to say. Chigg, closing remarks on that one, or should we do the secret frequency?
Let's move on to the secret frequency.
It's under the stairs. I want my mom.
Today, on this show, we bring, for the secret frequency, something about a major biological discovery inside Chernobyl reactor. So, what's going on with this? There's been a recent exciting biological discovery inside the tomb of the Chernobyl reactor. It sounds like it's something from a B-grade sci-fi movie. It sounds kind of something you shouldn't really expect. But then when you really think about it, you often get on BBC nature programs that say David Attenborough going, you really wouldn't expect life to survive here. And this is one of these cases. They discovered a thick coat of a black slime growing on the walls of the reactor, or at least within the tomb of the reactor. And of course, it's really radioactive there. And so scientists really didn't expect to find anything living there, let alone thriving like this slime is actually doing. So the slime, a collection of several fungi actually, is doing more than just surviving in a radioactive environment. is actually using the gamma radiation as a food source. So samples of these fungi were discovered to significantly grow faster when exposed to gamma radiation at 500 times the normal background radiation level. The fungi appear to use a form of melanin, the chemical that is in human skin that allows us to not get irradiated by UV, and is of course very similar to chlorophyll, which plants use, and is actually very similar to certain other stuff in chemistry to do light-initiated wonders of chemistry. Anyway, this melanin molecule gets struck by gamma ray, and of course the chemistry alters, and life for this fungi continues, and it does what it does, powered by radiation. To cut this into a short story, we have this fungus, this biological entity that's discovered to actually live on radioactivity, and an example of how life can live in the most hazardous environments known to man. And how can we make use of this in our World of Darkness games? Now, of course, I initially are drawn to thinking about what this means within regards to Promethean. I mean, is this slime something that grows in the wasteland effect due to the radioactive Prometheans, and so is a really bad thing for people to come across as it begins to grow behind their fridges, as this Promethean is living in the derelict building down the road? Could this slime represent a hazard in the form that it may have some form of spiritual reflection? I mean, is there some sort of abomination, I can't think of the word again, it's gone, but some amalgam of spirits of radioactivity and of some fungus that this represents have been merged together, and so it's a very strange form of antagonist for our werewolves. Maybe it is something that the scientists of the progenitors in technocracy would be very keen to get hold of, or maybe this is just something they left behind. They've already got this stuff, and they're manufacturing this in large amounts, and they're shipping it around the world. But what happens when one of these shipments goes off somewhere and gets lost and starts causing some strange mutations to people? You're going to have to send in a progenitor team to sort it out. Maybe this slime is actually vaguely related to a certain black mold, which vampires in Vampire the Requiem fear for their lives if they ever find it growing in the walls of derelict buildings. Or maybe this is a perfect example of one of the God Machine's infrastructures, and it is wanting to grow this stuff in large quantities.
Here's the thing there, actually.
Okay.
The God Machine hates waste. And as the God Machine pushes humanity to evolve more and more technological infrastructure, there's more and more potential for disaster. And the God Machine knows this. The God Machine, to the extent that it thinks in our terms, is aware that its processes are imperfect, that things can go wrong. And so something like this slime may represent an effort to salvage something that went wrong in the past.
Excellent. Yeah, that'd be really cool. The other thing I was thinking of is this is actually the dormant form of Pandorans of the same radioactive Prometheans, and so obviously when Prometheans come nearby, this foul slime takes form into a more solid kind of whatever killer form it takes, or maybe it just becomes animated like the Blob, which seems ridiculous when you look back at the old films, but that's actually really scary. Is this slime killing you? I mean, after all, there's necrotic bacteria that can cause horrible things to the human body, and just the idea of it's a very visceral kind of body horror, bio horror there. Matt?
Sure. There is actually a kind of flesh-eating slime mold sort of a thing in the World of Darkness already. It's in World of Darkness Antagonists.
Yeah, that was, I think, the one I was talking about with the vampire one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that dissolves vampires right away. And that And come to think of it, in Saturnine Night, which is the one source book for Promethean, there is a Promethean whose natural form is gelatinous. It isn't, black slime. It's this very pretty, nanotech sludge kind of stuff. But it would be very interesting to see, kind of the more biological form of that, a sort of more human cognition trapped in that body. And that is, there really is a person in there. It's just been, blasted into sludge and spread over the inside of the Chernobyl reactor. Now, can we help it get back into a body that, that it can use to walk among humanity? And if so, which of you would like to donate your body? And could it even help?
So it's like Cone of Flesh from Midnight Circus.
Yes. if we have to go there, yes.
Oh, we always have to go to Midnight Circus when we can.
I've got a copy of Midnight Circus I'm considering giving away as a prize. I still got a physical copy of it at my mother-in-law's and it's doing nothing, so I'm like, yeah, make a good prize. Chigg, yeah. Radioactive fungal slime. What are you going to do with it? What are Changelings going to do with it in Changeling the Dreaming? Come on. What are they going to do with it?
Just don't care for radiation all that much. It's very banal.
Yes.
Toxic to them. It's unpleasant. But no, when I read over this before the show, I was thinking more of a werewolf.
Yeah.
The radioactive stuff is always of the worm. So, I mean, this could be just a worm-spawned creature, some kind of horrible, freakish Fomori that's trying to take over the last remaining inhabitants of Chernobyl. It could be the Wild and the Weaver striking back at the worm's little nest that it has going there in the Chernobyl ruins. Like you said, it could be the progenitors trying to make something for whatever strange purposes they would want this radiation-eating bacteria for.
Oh, they'd give it to the void engineers. Sure. You're gonna have loads of radiation out there. You may as well have it there, growing and creating whatever product you want.
So you pick potatoes in space.
Yeah. I actually had a crazy thought just now of how to use it in Geist. So this is actually a physical manifestation of the kind of like ectoplasm, and is actually a anchor for the dead the unfortunate dead of everyone that's been ever affected by the radiation fallout of the Chernobyl reactor. And so you will find a purer form of this, maybe dripping off the walls or dripping or coating the ghosts of them in a domain that is tied to this very event. So that's an idea for Geist.
It's horrible.
It is, yeah, it's really horrible. I don't know where that one came from, and but yeah, the idea of a domain with this as it's actually ectoplasm is kind of foul. Yeah, and, of course, guys, Sin Eaters don't really have to worry because I think dying of it, you're already dead. You're not going to be affected by this. Yeah, I think, is that it? Any last gems in there? Okay, and we'll move over then to our last segment, which is going to be some more New World of Darkness, and we're just going to briefly chat about some other stuff that's been going on. So, of course, I think this is a good point with, considering we've been talking about Demon Descent, maybe to do a little bit of, chatting and reflection on the fact that, God Machine Chronicles has been out for a while, and that's had a new, that gives us a new World of Darkness rule set, an update. And of course, I'm eagerly awaiting Blood and Smoke because I'm a massive Phantom by the Requiem fan. So, really, how's the feedback been going with God Machine Chronicles? And favourite features that you've seen in the rule set and that you've been enjoying, using in your own games?
Well, I think people have really taken to conditions. Mm-hmm. And I know groups that I've played with have really taken to them. I tend to write them on Post-its. And so you've got your character sheet decorated with your little condition Post-its, and it serves as a reminder when something dramatic has happened earlier that dramatic thing should pay off later. It's sort of a Chekhov's rifle reminder. And I really like that. I really like the rhythm it creates in play. And it's worked really well for me in actually running games.
I've had the joy of now actually running a game using the God Machine Chronicles rule set. It was a hangout game with Mike and one of our semi-hosts that's sometimes on for Chronicle Design, James. They really enjoyed it, and I have to say there was a lot of a talk I saw on Google Plus, like, conditions going to really slow down the game because there's a lot more bookkeeping. It didn't really affect me that much.
I was going to say, that has not been my experience.
No.
Not mine either.
No, not been my experience at all in that. Literally, we played through in 4 hours a story. I prefer the new combat system. I say new combat system, the update, which is how damage is done and everything. You feel it flows quite well. And of course, I love integrity. I love just the entire, what that means compared to the old kind of humanity, morality system. And it really represents what I think I've always naturally been doing with that is you see something horrific, that's how you're going to react to it, and the question is how well you respond to that. No, I've really enjoyed it. It's been great, so I'm looking forward to using it. I don't know whether I'm going to use it in my next World of Darkness game because I plan on running Geist, so I need to see some updated rules from someone for that first.
The forums have been cranking away on that.
Yeah, I have noticed that one. So yeah, other good feedback you've heard on it, or favourite stories about using them, or things that you feel it's enabled in your own games?
Well, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of the setting material from the God Machine Chronicle.
Okay.
As I mentioned in my Changeling game, we recently did something that was framed as a haunted house story. But what the haunting actually was that the house was a piece of infrastructure designed to collect the souls of people who had died before their time. And so we had some magnificent experiences with exploring that haunted house, finding the it was an old lady's house, so there were these piled scrapbooks, and in the scrapbooks were lists of people who had died early or disappeared, or had yet to die early or disappear, things from the future. And it was really, really creepy, leading up to, in fact, an encounter with the angel who identified himself as the groundskeeper. Hopefully the characters got away with reprogramming the house as a trap for True Fae, but we'll find that out in a future adventure.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's my big God Machine Chronicle story. Just based on having leveraged the idea of infrastructure and angels.
Okay. Cool. Matt, you're currently running, of course, your Demon of Descent game, so obviously you're definitely using the God Machine Chronicle rule set there.
Well, I'm running Promethean at the moment, actually.
Okay.
But I am using the God Machine Chronicles. I converted Promethean up as much as I needed to, and mostly that was a matter of, actually the hardest thing to do as far as converting Promethean was the experience system, because of the fact that you get milestones in Promethean, which then give you vitriol, which you can use as experience. But since this got converted to the system of beats and experiences, I had to sort of rethink how I was approaching that, and so that took a little bit of work, and hopefully I'll have a chance to kind of put that paid in a God Machine Chronicles update to Promethean.
Sweet.
If Rich is listening, I would really like to do that book, Rich.
Well, I think we stand a good chance of doing it, depending on a number of factors. But we've got God Machine Chronicle updates coming out for Mage and for Werewolf next year, and if those meet the meet the critical standards and the sales standards that we set for them, then I think we got a very good chance of doing Promethean and Changeling the next year. But
Changeling would
don't
be
take
awesome.
my word for it.
Yeah.
This is not a promise. This is just, the general direction things are moving.
We're just talking here.
Oh yeah, it would be awesome to happen. I mean, to see him in any form, whether it's like an official product or at least something to read on a forum to use. It'd be great to have at least some hints or even. So yeah, I mean, how to give an idea, how long had the God Machine Chronicle update been really brewing for? Like, how long it been in the back of your minds before it took shape, or that you felt that to drive, the new World of Darkness rule set in that direction?
Well, I kind of did a little bit of revision to the rule set when we did World of Darkness Innocence.
Yeah.
And it was mostly simple things like moving Virtue and Vice from a static list of 7 and 7 to saying here is what this trait represents to your character. You come up with what it actually is. And then when we did World of Darkness Mirrors, of course, a lot of the rules changes in there were just us, the authors, coming up with these are things that we use in our games. These are things that we think would be kind of cool. And putting them down on paper. And what eventually became the integrity system that I wrote for the God Machine Chronicle, you can kind of see its genesis in the kind of alternate takes on morality that show up in Mirrors. So it's been brewing for a while. And then add that to kind of the different approach to game design that that David Hale and me and Dave Brookshaw and Rose sort of bring to the table.
And Stu, don't forget Stu.
Stu, yes, absolutely. I think it was a good team, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting that down.
I think it took us about 6 months all told to do the final revision, right?
Oh God, was it that long? It felt like so much longer. It was a really big book.
It was a huge book, yeah. I remember as you were doing the final development on it.
Yeah, and one of the things, and this was entirely my fault, it just made for a lot of work for me, was I didn't really figure out what I wanted to do as far as the chronicle tracks that are in there until after the authors were already done with the book. So everybody had already turned in their final draft, and I was putting this together, and I went, oh, what would be really cool? Doing it this way. I'm like, and now I have to do it because they've already done their final drafts, and I can't act them for another one. So I wrote probably 10,000 words on that book that was done after all of the finals were turned in, and just spackling everything together. With that said, it was really gratifying to see the book go platinum on drive-thru.
And it didn't take very long for it to do it either.
No, it didn't.
Was very happy with that.
Yes.
It's been a really great read. I mean, I know always with these books when they come out, there's so much stuff that I want to use, but I know I'll get around to using once I've told the Chronicle that's been stuck in my head for a while first. So I will get around to using stuff out of that book and like out of Mummy at some point, other stuff soon. But usually my way of when new stuff comes up is I'll use them as antagonists first to get a feel for them, and then mess around with an actual more focused Chronicle. But yeah, it was a really good read, and the new rule set is just awesome. It really does add to the game a lot more, and I think it really helps focus in on the horror and nudges players towards how they should react to those horrific events, and ask questions about what their characters are doing and what are the consequences of those actions. It's been great for that. And, of course, this all feeds into the fact we've also got Blood and Smoke coming up. And there's been some really good revisions we're seeing turn up in that, both with how integrity is reflected in the new humanity, and then how that translates into how our vampires in Requiem are now going to be able to do a bit of day walking in some form, and revisions to powers. I think in particular I like the new take on some new things in animalism. I can't remember what the new term is. The Auto Dracal have some new.
The Mysteries of the Dragon.
Yeah, so you have coils, and you have all their kind of alchemy, but you have their form of experimentation. So is that the Mysteries
Yes.
of the Dragon? So
the scales of the dragon are the experimental procedures. Where we're sort of coming at with that is that the books have been saying for years that the Order does all of this experimentation and it takes all of these weird approaches to dealing with the vampiric curse. But the only way they've been paying off for us so far is in a finite and honestly fairly narrow set of coils that work primarily as weakness mitigation. So when we reconceived the entire Ordo Dracul suite, we looked at what can we do to say that the dragons are successful at changing the kindred condition. So we made the coils themselves are now more about changing the nature of the kindred game, about manipulating the curse, changing it to your advantage, using it to your advantage. And then the scales are the offshoot experimental procedures that the Order comes up with while working on refining the coils themselves.
okay, no, I really like that because I mean, the Auto Dracal, I think they're my second favorite. It's really hard. I think I like all the covenants for something in Requiem, and of course,
Well, that's great to hear.
yeah. I'm massive. Like I've been running my Vampire Requiem Chronicle, which is I guess still ongoing because we've played the second season of, and it's a Carthian-based city, and so the Auto Dracal started off as kind of antagonistic, and then got back into the city, and they're not so much the bad guys anymore, and I would love to return to that setting and play through certain time periods of what we've already done, but from the Auto Dracal point of view, and see those events and look at how they do experiments. So it's good to have some more kind of like, yes, you can actually do experiments with your Auto Dracal characters and like really get into the guts of how they do it, and that's that'll be really, really fun. And in the same way, because of course we had the wonderful book on blood magic and blood sorcery, Sacraments and Blasphemies. That's the one, and that was awesome because it added the Therondes and also how we can build up blood magic using different components in a very much more like mage. So is some of that being folded back into Blood and Smoke, or is that being kept to something more separate but still applicable?
Well, so Blood and Smoke presents blood sorcery as a system with static rituals.
Okay.
However, all of the static rituals supplied in Blood and Smoke are built with the system from Blood Sorcery.
That's awesome to know. Right, okay, that's great.
So you've got that, and you've also, since the extended action rules changed in God Machine Chronicle, we've provided a sidebar that explains how to use those updated extended action rules with the freeform blood sorcery rules in Sacraments and Blasphemies.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk, I think, about that when both that came out and God Machine came out. Okay, that's wicked.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry. You said that they were built off of the rules presented in the previous book. Is there a simple breakdown of this uses this rule and that rule, and you can substitute that and this instead if you so desire?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of what you said.
It's built off of the previous the system presented in the older book. Does it say it uses this system and that system, but if you want, you can substitute this other system over here for either of those? Is it modular, I guess is the question I'm asking.
It doesn't present the full, worksheet for creating the powers, but it'll be fairly clear if you look at them how they were constructed.
Okay. That answers my question.
Cool. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Blood and Smoke, and I think it's not that far off from release. So I think anything else really, I think this is the best point to say, if people want to know more, I think we should wait until that book is closer to release, and people should send in some questions to Darker Days, and we can address that in its own little show, because
I'd be happy to come back.
Oh, please, 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 because I will have loads of questions on that one, because, yeah, I love the Strix and everything about Vampire.
Get a really big chapter in this book.
So, I think a good point to wrap up, because it really completes a lot of the things that's going on with New World of Darkness right now. We have Dark Eras coming up. So, really, where did this book spawn from, and kind of what stuff are you involved in with Dark Eras? I know some sections have been announced by some of the writers, some of them have not. There's a few choices in time period, so kind of, what led you maybe to your choice of time period or location and so forth. Just give us some teasers on that, possibly.
Well, first of all, Matt is the Uber developer on the book. Each individual line developer is handling their own chapter.
Okay.
But Matt is overseeing all of us.
I suspect I'll probably credit it in the book as project coordinator, although I prefer Uber developer.
We'll see about that. I'm not sure how we're gonna credit folks there. For me, I thought that the Elizabethan period was a really fascinating period for Vampire, because it's a period in which London is a tremendously exciting city.
Mm-hmm.
We're not calling it the Renaissance yet, but this is the English Renaissance. At the same time, it's a police state. Elizabethan London is a place where people are monitored, where sedition is ferreted out. There's all sorts of politics that you can get the Kindred involved in, and it's a transitional point in the history of thinking about European empire. Elizabeth I wears the crown imperial, which goes back a few generations, but which is basically the physical symbol of the idea of the British Empire. So what happens when vampires start thinking about empires? What happens when vampires start thinking that the Camarilla is a thing that can be remade?
Oh, wow.
And then, since there isn't a Circle of the Crone yet,
mm-hmm.
who's occupying that role of dealing with the things that go bump in the night?
Awesome. Yeah, that gives a lot of throwback then to how that connects with what was presented in Ancient Mysteries with the Nacht Kaiser, with again a kind of a resurgence idea of a Camarilla of some form. So that's really great. I know another one of the Dark Eras that I'm particularly interested in is the Changeling the Lost one that is going to be set in Paris. Is that correct?
Swashbuckler era France, yes.
Yes. So I think, again, I will be quite excited to read that one because I love Changeling the Lost. Do we have any other time periods announced for it, or for any of the other lines? I think, wasn't Werewolf something like the 60s, 70s, flower power?
70s. Not
70s,
Flower Children at all.
Oh, okay.
The 1970s.
Okay.
Kind of more Warriors inspired than anything else.
It's the 1970s in New York.
Okay. And
as presented via a very cinematic lens.
And do we have anything for Mage or Geist or Promethean?
Don't think we're announcing Geist yet. Mage is actually the death and the period short. It basically goes from Alexander's India campaign up to a few years after his death. And it's going to get into some of the cultural roots of mage culture, and the fact that if you look at the surface in Mage the Awakening, it's all classicism and theosophy and all of these things like that. Well, this is going to deconstruct that a little bit. This is going to say, well, what ideas did we get when the Greeks, who, invented Atlantis but don't really believe in it at this point, what do we get when they mix with the Persians and their traditions of astrology and mysticism, and how does that sort of come forward to create some of the elements of mage culture that we know today?
Ah, stunning.
Culture clash as a factor in supernatural cultures is going to be huge in that section, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool. Yeah, because the other thing I thought when, I guess that's the reason why the Elizabethan period was maybe a better choice for vampires, because also it seems like also a really good time period for mage, because you've got John Dee obviously and his Enochian and being the Queen Elizabeth's astrologer. So I think that there's going to be a lot of content from all of these different sections that are going to be more than applicable to any of the other World of Darkness games, and more than likely a really good read for even classic World of Darkness readers, because I'm sure they could grab some great ideas from any of those sections.
Well, let me throw you this about Elizabethan Vampire.
Okay.
Takes place the year that Christopher Marlowe is assassinated.
Okay. I'm not too hot on my Elizabethan history. Christopher Marlowe.
Playwright and spy.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Finally, I think then just to wrap up so we can finish off here on this very long Demon Descent chat and everything with God Machine and so forth. Is there any other stuff you guys want to plug that you're working on? Obviously, we have Cavaliers of Mars. It's had its quick start out for a while now. And any other projects that you want to talk about or that are upcoming that are either related to Onyx Path or maybe just other things that you're dabbling with?
Matt has some really exciting stuff coming up.
I do, yes. Growling Door Games. This is the company that I run with my wife, Michelle Lyons McFarland. We have our third Kickstarter, which is going to launch in January, God willing, and the creek don't rise, for a game called Daedalus. And Daedalus is a cyberpunk setting that's going to contain 3 games within it, and it sort of depends on. I don't want to get into it here because it's not Onyx Path, so I don't want to burn too much time. But basically, there's going to be 3 games within the setting: one in Fate, one in Gumshoe, and one in Apocalypse World.
Oh wow! Okay, that's really interesting.
If you want to get a look at a teaser picture, you can check out DaedalusRPG.com.
Okay.
It's nothing but the picture at the moment. It's worth looking at.
Okay, great. And yeah, actually, going back to Cavaliers of Mars, what are we expecting? Are we expecting anything on the horizon soon from that?
So, Cavaliers of Mars, we're still looking at 2014. I guess it could slide to early 2015. The main product will be the core book. We've got some supplements we're talking about. We've also got an interesting web project that we're doing some technical exploration on. I don't know if that'll actually come to fruition or not, but it'll be really neat, and it'll be something Onyx Path hasn't done before if we do it.
Chigg, anything final? I have one final question that needs to be asked.
Well, you go ahead and ask it then.
Cool. For Rose, considering, I think, I was checking back, this is your first time on Darker Days, isn't it?
I think I was here a couple of years ago, actually.
Yeah.
But,
then that question most probably...
Back when I was at CCP, I think y'all had me on.
Oh, it may be on there. I checked the list and I couldn't find it. Well, then that kind of question is redundant, because that's the classic... what household appliance would you be? That's always been asked. Well, then, at that point, then, I think it's a...
Coffee maker.
Yeah, coffee maker. That comes up so often. Excellent.
French press.
Yes. Well, I think that's a good point, then, to plug your website where people can get in contact with you, and also Twitter's, whatever. So, Matt, your website, you gave for your Daedalus one already. Your main website, then, is growlingdoorgames.com. Okay. And Rose?
blog.fantasyheartbreaker.com.
Excellent. And of course, people can get all the news and everything else from Onyx Path Publishing. They can find that fairly easily, I'm sure. Anything else?
Please watch the Vampire the Requiem Facebook. We do a lot of updates there.
Oh yeah, you really do. Yeah, I do watch that one. Of course, people can go to Kickstarter, yeah. Kickstarter, putting Demon Descent. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, and you can see what you will get if you pledge, and there are numerous pledge levels there. And if people wish to get in contact with Darker Days Radio and send us questions, because we do plan to give away a physical prize, because we've been racking up some drive-thru RPG credit. So when Blood and Smoke hits, we are doing a physical copy giveaway of that as soon as possible. Yeah. So we can be contacted at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com, and you can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Twitter at Darker Days Radio. And of course, we have over 200 members on our Google Plus community. So that's a good place to chat, ask questions, and find hangout games as well. And of course, there's our blog, which right now, because I am running non-World of Darkness stuff, is festooned with pictures of painted toy soldiers for that are killing things. But you know, you got to play something else to refresh your etheric resonance batteries. And with that, I would like to say thank you to Matt and Rose once again for coming on the show and giving us some of their time to talk about Demon. And of course, thank you to Chigg for putting up with all this New World of Darkness talk. You'll get your own back next time, when we're going to talk a lot about Void Engineers, I believe.
I plan on it, yes.
Oh yes, we're going to talk about those damned scientists. And with that, ciao. That's it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.